was an old woman named Mrs. Doyle staying in a hospice care room on the 3rd floor of the hospital. She had been sick for a long time and didn't have much time left. The nurses said she hadn't spoken in days. Her family had already said goodbye. It was just a matter of time now. One cold morning, something strange started happening outside her window. A group of black crows appeared on the narrow ledge. At first, there were only 2 or 3, but by noon, there were 10 of them. They didn't move much. They just sat there, watching. Some nurses tried to scare them off, but the birds wouldn't leave. They stayed still, their eyes locked on the window, as if they were waiting for something. By evening, the hallway outside her room felt colder than usual. A nurse named Carla said the lights near her door had flickered twice. One even went out. Around 11 p.m., Mrs. Doyle passed away quietly in her bed. There were no machines in the room, no beeping, just silence. But the moment she died, the crows outside suddenly came to life. They all stood up at once and started cawing, loud and angry. The sound echoed through the hospital hallway, sharp and wild. Then, as quickly as they had started, they flew away together into the night. The strange part came later. The next morning, a janitor cleaning Mrs. Doyle's room saw black feathers on the windowsill, dozens of them. Some were inside the room, even though the window had never been opened. He also found small scratch marks along the glass, like something had been trying to get in. Later that week, a new patient was put in the same room. She started complaining that she heard tapping on the window at night. When the nurse checked, nothing was there, but the tapping always came back. The woman even said she dreamed of crows landing on her chest, staring into her eyes, whispering in voices she didn't understand. After 3 days, she begged to be moved to another room. Nobody talks much about room 312 now. The staff closes the blinds before nightfall, and every so often, just after someone dies in the building, crows return to the windowsill, silent, watching, waiting. I woke up in a hospital bed. The room was dim and quiet. No machines were beeping, and no one was around. I had tubes and wires stuck into my arms and chest. My body felt weak, but one thing was clear. I really had to pee. I slowly sat up. My head spun a little, but I forced myself to stand. I grabbed the 4th pole and shuffled toward the door. The hallway was silent, not a single nurse or doctor in sight. The bathroom was a bit down the hall, around a corner. I started walking, my hospital gown brushing against my legs. That's when I saw him. A room to my right had its door wide open. Inside, a man was lying in the bed. He didn't look right. His head was hanging off the side of the bed, bent backward unnaturally. His eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling fan above. His mouth moved slowly as he whispered, "Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me." I froze. I looked up at the ceiling fan, but nothing was there. Just the slow, quiet spin of the blades. The man's voice grew more desperate. I stepped away quickly, thinking maybe it was a dream. Maybe my mind was still foggy. I hurried to the bathroom. I finished, trying to shake the feeling off. I splashed cold water on my face, hoping it would clear my head. I stepped back into the hallway. That's when I saw him again. He was still lying in that bed, but now there was blood coming out of his mouth, thick and dark. It dripped down his chin, soaking the hospital gown. His eyes weren't moving anymore, just wide and blank. I panicked. I rushed to the nurse's station. My voice cracked as I called for help. A nurse finally showed up and followed me back to the room. She checked his pulse. Then she looked at me, her face pale. "He's dead," she whispered. I just stared. I couldn't believe it. Had I seen a ghost? Had he already been dead when I first saw him? Or did something come while I was in the bathroom? The nurse said he had been stable just an hour ago. No signs of bleeding, no signs of distress. She looked disturbed too, but tried to stay calm. They moved me back to my room. Monitors were reattached, and nurses kept checking in every hour. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. his mouth whispering for mercy, and the fan always spinning. Now I wonder, what was he looking at up there? I used to work in the trauma emergency room one night. A 17-year-old boy was rushed in. He had been shot while playing basketball, a drive-by shooting. He wasn't the target, just a kid in the wrong place. He lost a lot of blood. It was bad. People moved fast, but deep down, we knew he might not make it. Then someone realized his mother worked with us. She was a nurse on duty that night. She came running into the trauma room just as we were about to call his time. Her scream was the worst thing I've ever heard. I couldn't handle it. I left the room and didn't go back for the rest of the shift. But somehow, the boy survived. Everyone called it a miracle. He was unconscious for a while. Then strange things started happening. At night, nurses said he would talk in his sleep. Full conversations. Sometimes he'd laugh, other times he'd scream. One nurse saw him sitting up at 2 a.m., staring at the corner, talking to someone who wasn't there. His mother started taking night shifts to stay close to him. One night, she found him sitting up in bed again, whispering to the empty corner. She asked softly, "Who are you talking to?" The boy turned and smiled. "My new friend. I met him last night. His name is John." Her blood ran cold. She asked, "How old is John?" The boy thought for a second. "Maybe 40. He wears a white coat, like you, but he walks weird." She felt sick. John was the head nurse. He had died in that hospital a year ago. He fell from the 5th floor. Everyone said it was an accident, but there were rumors, strange ones. She never told her son about John. He was too young, and he was never supposed to know. She asked what they talked about. The boy looked away and said, "He told me I wasn't supposed to die. Not yet. But he said some others will be coming soon." That was her last night working on that floor. The boy got better, went home, but he still won't talk about that week. My mum has worked in the ICU for years. She sees death often, at least twice a week. It's not the dying that haunts her, but how it happens. Most patients, she says, know when their time is up. Hours, sometimes days before they go, they start whispering the same words in Filipino. "Nandito na sila." They're already here. When she asks who, their eyes widen, fixed on a specific corner of the room. Their skin turns pale, lips trembling. There's always one chilling constant. Before they flatline, they calmly ask for a glass of water. But by the time the glass touches their lips, they're gone. She had a patient, perfectly stable, laughing with staff, eating. Then, mid-sentence, he froze. His head slowly turned to the far corner of the room. He whispered, "They're watching." My mum looked, but there was nothing. He was gone 5 minutes later. Others describe a figure, always the same. A tall shadow, no face, just standing silently in the room's darkest corner. Sometimes it moves, sometimes it doesn't. One night she saw it too. She walked past an empty room where a patient had died hours earlier. The lights were off, but inside, a black shape. Still, tall, waiting. She blinked, and it vanished. She rarely talks about it now, claiming it's part of the job. But I see the weight it carries. The true horror isn't just death. It's the knowing that something might be waiting in the corner, and when they see it, they know their time has come. Working in a hospital long enough, you start getting used to strange behavior. Patients see things. They mumble, cry, scream. Most of the time, you explain it away as confusion, side effects, or just the way a failing mind tries to make sense of things. But there are moments that stick. Moments that don't leave you, no matter how hard you try to forget. It started with an elderly woman. I was sitting with her during a quiet night shift. She had been slipping in and out of awareness, mostly silent. Then, without warning, she grabbed my wrist and pulled me toward her. Her hand was ice cold. Her grip was shaking but strong. She looked me dead in the eye and whispered, "Please, Don't let them take me." Her voice was full of fear. I tried to calm her down, but she wasn't listening to me. Her wide eyes were staring just past my shoulder. I turned, thinking someone had walked in. But the corner of the room was empty. I told her gently, "There's no one there." She shook her head slowly and whispered again, "Yes, there is. He's always there." After that night, strange things kept happening. A young man recovering from surgery looked over my shoulder when I entered the room. His face went pale. He asked, "Who's that?" I asked who he meant, and he pointed past me. "Behind you," he said in a low voice. I turned around quickly, heart racing. The room was empty, just like before. I told myself it was the meds. Maybe he was dreaming. But the way he looked, I'll never forget it. It wasn't just him. Other patients, in other rooms, started saying similar things. Some asked who the man in the corner was. Some said they saw someone moving in the shadows when no one else was there. One woman cried all night, begging me not to leave her alone. She said she could hear someone breathing by her bed. I stayed with her, even though the room felt colder than it should have. The air was thick. At one point, I thought I heard someone whisper right behind me. But when I turned, again, nothing. A little girl once asked me why the tall man in black stood in her corner every night. She said he watched her sleep and never blinked. There was no tall man. There were no visitors allowed after hours. Her room was locked. We're trained to keep calm, to focus on reason, to explain things away. But when too many people see the same figure in the same places over and over again, you stop feeling so sure. Maybe it's not confusion. Maybe they're not hallucinating. Maybe something is really there, watching, waiting, and maybe it doesn't just follow the patients. I didn't see it happen, but I heard about it. Everyone at the hospital has. They still talk about it in whispers. Like saying too much will wake something up. There was a patient in room 312, a quiet man, suicidal. Never spoke unless he had to. But he watched everything. He knew the staff, their routines, when they changed shifts, when the halls were empty. He waited for the right night. When the evening shift signed out, he made his move. Night staff was thinner, slower, easier to go unnoticed. That's when he did it. He used the power cord from the room's TV, unplugged it, wrapped it around his neck and tied it to the bedpost. He didn't even stand up, just sat on his knees. Then he leaned forward and let gravity pull him down. But that wasn't the worst part. He made sure no one would come save him. He smeared feces all over the room, on the bed, the walls, the floor, even the doorknob. The smell was so thick, so rotten it clung to your throat. The kind of stench that warned you to stay away. The night nurse was the one who found him. She opened the door and froze. The lights inside were flickering. The air felt heavy, like it didn't want to move. In the corner, his body was slumped. His eyes were open wide. They said his face didn't look scared. It looked calm, like he saw something coming, like he wanted it. They cut him down, but it was too late. He was cold. The room had gone still. Even the lights buzzed quieter. The hospital cleaned it all, repainted the walls, threw out everything in the room. They said it was ready again, but the smell stayed. Even after days of deep cleaning, people said the air still felt wrong, sour, thick. Some nurses refused to enter. Patients started complaining. Nightmares, whispers, cold spots by the window. One patient swore they saw someone in the corner, a man just sitting there, staring at the TV. But the TV had been removed months ago. They locked room 312 after that, called it a maintenance room. No one goes near it now unless they have to, but we all know it's still his room. And sometimes, when the halls are quiet and the air turns cold, you can smell that same rot, like something dead is still sitting there, watching, waiting. Some people don't just die, some stay behind. And room 312 is never really empty. I worked hospital security during college. Most nights were slow, long walks, coffee breaks, quiet halls. But one night still keeps me awake sometimes. Part of my job was helping move bodies to the morgue. When someone died, a nurse would call and we'd bring them down. It was never fun. The morgue hallway was always cold, too quiet. Lights buzzed and sometimes they flickered. It felt like the whole place held its breath. That night, an older man had just passed in the ER. The nurse called me. She already had him on the stretcher, covered with a white sheet. I helped her push. Neither of us spoke. Just silence, wheels squeaking over tile. Then, halfway down the hallway, the man moaned. Not a soft breath, not a shift of air. It was low, deep, like something in pain, or warning us. I froze. My hands flew off the stretcher. I stared at the sheet. My chest felt tight. My legs wouldn't move. I thought maybe we were wrong. Maybe he wasn't dead. The nurse didn't even look surprised. She just said, "Air in the lungs. Happens sometimes." I nodded slowly, but my stomach twisted, because I didn't think that was air. As soon as she spoke, the lights above us flickered. Not just once, twice, a third time. The hallway felt heavier, like the air thickened. I could feel something on my skin, cold, prickling. We kept going, but I couldn't stop staring at the sheet. I watched for movement, a twitch, a hand, anything. I swear I saw it shift once, just slightly, like something underneath had moved, the kind of movement you don't want to see, the kind that makes your skin crawl. When we got to the morgue, I stopped at the door. I didn't want to go in. The nurse wheeled him the rest of the way. As she slid the stretcher into the cold drawer, the lights flickered again. She didn't say a word. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing that sound over and over. That low, broken moan, like something trapped, something not done. People say it was science, just air escaping the lungs. But I remember the way it felt, like the hallway had changed, like something else was there. Even now, when I'm alone at night, sometimes I hear that sound again, and every time it feels closer. The hospital basement was always cold, but that night it was bone-chilling. My dispatch office, usually a hub of quiet activity, felt like a tomb. Locked in, I was alone, or so I thought. Then, the intercom hissed to life. Code yellow. A patient was missing from the mental health ward. A shiver traced its way down my spine. How had he gotten out? No one should have been able to. 10 minutes later, the silence warped. A soft rattle at my door handle, then another, more insistent. My breath caught in my throat. Someone was trying to get in. I froze, every muscle screaming at me not to move, not to breathe. The rattling stopped. Slowly, I crept to the peephole. My heart hammered against my ribs. There he was. A man in a hospital gown, hunched against the wall, his head cocked at an unnatural angle. His eyes, unblinking and black, were fixed on the peephole. A slow, unsettling smile stretched across his face. He knew I was watching. I stumbled back, fumbling for my phone. My hands trembled as I whispered to security, terrified he'd hear me. They arrived quickly, their shouts echoing down the empty corridor. I heard crashing, yelling, a language I didn't recognize, guttural and chilling. He was fighting them, screaming. As they dragged him away, his voice deepened, twisting into something inhuman, like two voices speaking as one. Just before they rounded the corner, he twisted his head, his eyes locking onto the security camera above my door. He whispered something, a sound swallowed by the distance, but I felt it, a cold dread seeping into my bones. The next day, I pulled up the camera footage. My blood ran cold. He didn't walk into view. One frame, nothing. The next, he was just there, sitting. No approach, no footsteps, just a sudden, impossible appearance. I don't work alone at night anymore, and the sound of a rattling doorknob sends a jolt of pure terror through me. In 2007, my convoy was hit by an IED. I was lucky enough to survive, but badly injured. They flew me to FOB Anaconda and admitted me to the ICU. The place was chaos. A big firefight had just happened, and the unit was packed. Blood, shouting, alarms, everything happening at once. I was stable and awake, so they parked my gurney off to the side and rushed to the others who needed more help. Next to me was an Iraqi local. He was badly injured, a deep hole on the left side of his forehead. He was intubated, unconscious, and covered in dried blood. I looked at him and just assumed he was already dead. He looked like a corpse, pale, still. I turned my head away, trying to block it all out. My body hurt, but something else crept in. Something cold. That's when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, the dead man moved. Slow at first. A twitch of the fingers. Then, suddenly, he sat up straight, like something had yanked him upright. His eyes rolled back, and his mouth opened wide. He started clawing at the breathing tube, pulling it out. The sounds, I'll never forget them. Wet, choking, gagging sounds, like something soft being sucked through a broken vacuum. It made my stomach turn. He was covered in blood, and now he was moving. No, jerking like a puppet. For a second, it felt like I wasn't in a hospital anymore. It felt like a nightmare, something out of a zombie movie. I started yelling, "Hey, hey, hey," as loud as I could, but nobody heard me at first. I couldn't move. My whole body was frozen. Finally, orderlies rushed in. They pinned him down. One of them shouted that the man had flatlined earlier. He was gone. But somehow, he came back. They re-intubated him, sedated him, and strapped him down. I couldn't sleep that night. I just stared at him. He didn't move again, but something about the way he sat up didn't feel human. Like something else had pushed him back into that body, just for a moment. Even now, I still hear those sounds in my dreams, and sometimes I wonder, did he really come back, or did something else crawl inside?